Welcome back. If you joined us the last time, we talked about whether this is the right year for you to apply for an MBA. But once you've decided to apply, the next big question is where do you actually fit? Are you a strong candidate for an M7 school or is a different year a better fit? A lot of applicants waste time applying to the wrong schools. Some shoot too high and get rejected, while others apply too conservatively and miss out on the top schools they could have gotten into. What does a typical MBA admit look like at top business schools? Industry experience and GMAT trends at top MBA programs. Three types of MBA applicants. Where do you fit? A quick self assessment to determine your competitiveness for an MBA application this year. By the end of this season, you will have a much clearer idea of where you stand and which schools fit your profile. So let's get started. What does an MBA class profile really look like? Let's start by understanding what a typical MBA admit looks like. We'll break it down by work experience, industry background, and test scores. In terms of work experience, 4 to 6 years of experience is the sweet spot for top schools. Some schools like Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton are open to younger candidates with 2 to 3 years of experience as well if they have created an exceptional impact and they have an impact story to talk about. Older candidates that could be around 7 years plus typically do better in the executive MBA programs, or they might want to look at the 1 year full time MBA programs in India as well as internationally. But if they really want to apply to a 2 year MBA program, then they need a very compelling story to justify the full time MBA applications. If you have less than 3 years of experience, you need a big impact story to compensate. And if you have 7 plus years of experience, be strategic. Do you really need a full time MBA? Do you need a 2 year MBA or a 1 year MBA? Or would an executive MBA be better? Answer these questions for yourself. Next, let's talk about the industry backgrounds. This is crucial because schools want a diverse mix of students. Not all industries have the same acceptance rates at MBA programs. The biggest feeder industries to MBA programs are as follows. Consulting is the biggest, around 20 to 30% of the class. These could be applicants from companies like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, Deloitte, Accenture, etc. Next comes the finance sector, which could be around 20 to 25% of a contribution to the class of admits. And the MBA applicants come from different sectors like investment banking, private equity, asset management, and venture capital. The technology sector comes next, that is around 10 to 15% of the class, like product managers, software engineers, AI specialists, and project managers. Next comes the healthcare, retail, non-profit, military, and the government sector, which could be around 5 to 10% of the class. In the consulting, finance, or the tech sector, you must differentiate yourself from thousands of similar applicants. And if you're in the non-traditional fields, then you need to explain your why MBA pivot, your MBA pivot very clearly so that the adcoms understand your career path. Next, let's look at the GMAT or the GRE scores. What's a competitive score? Where does your GMAT or GRE stand in the MBA landscape? If you're considering the M7 schools, you look at their GMAT or the GRE scores, the average scores would be around 720 to 740. Then you can very well assume that to be competitive, you need a higher score than that. In terms of the GRE school, in terms of the GRE scores, always look at the complete range of scores that are admitted to the class. A lot of schools declare these scores and this range. And in that perspective, for the GRE verbal and the GRE quant, please look at the scores separately and see where your GMAT or GRE lies with respect to the highest number on that particular range. If you are close to that number, that means you have a competitive score. Next comes the top 15 schools. So if you're looking at the top 15 schools, the average GMAT scores could be around 700, 710 to 720, or your GRE verbal could range from 155 to 162. GRE quant could range from 158 to 165. Now, in each of these cases, a competitive score would be any score which will be higher than the average score of the class. And in terms of the GRE scores, you look at the higher number in that particular range. So that if your score is close to that particular number, then that means your score is competitive. At the top 30 schools, the GMAT averages would be around 680 to 700 or 710. And the GRE verbal scores, the range would be from 150 to 158 to 160 at times. And GRE quant scores could be 152 to 160, 62, 63 kind of a score. So at that point in time, it is very important for you to match your particular GRE verbal and quant score to that particular range and try and a competitive score would be the higher number in that range. So that's what makes your GRE and GMAT competitive, and that is how you can decide where you fit. So a 650 GMAT isn't competitive for an M7 school, but it can work for a T15 or a T30 school. So what I'm trying to bring home is that, choose your schools, choose your target programs very wisely. Don't apply to only one program. Apply to a bunch of programs, and always have a range of clear a range of schools that you are applying to. Have a dream school, have the safe schools, and also have aspirational schools. But do that evaluation in a very pragmatic manner. If your score is below average, you must compensate with exceptional leadership or impact stories. Now that we understand the class profile, let's talk about the three types of applicants and their challenges: the traditional applicant, the career changer, and the non traditional applicant. The traditional applicant would be someone from consulting, finance, or tech. These could be around 40 to 50% of the admits at a school. They will bring in strengths like analytical skills, structured thinking, strong business exposure. But it will be hard for you to stand out. You have to stand out amongst thousands of similar profiles. So that's the challenge that you have to face when you are putting up a MBA application for if you're coming from the traditional applicant pool. Coming to the career changers, these could be around 30 to 40% of the admits at a particular school, and their backgrounds could be engineering, healthcare, military, marketing, HR, non-profit. They do bring a diverse background, they bring in fresh perspectives, they are adaptable, and these add a lot of value to the MBA class. But the schools may question if the MBA pivot is realistic. So you need to be able to build that particular clear pathway of showing your leadership skills and being able to communicate the MBA pivot in a very realistic manner. The third are the non-traditional applicants. These would be around 10 to 15% of the admits. Their backgrounds could be anywhere from artists, athletes, musicians, journalists, or the government sector. The strengths are that you bring in a unique story, you have unconventional leadership experience. That is definitely a plus to the MBA class, but the schools may struggle to see how the MBA actually fits into your career path. Now, that is the challenge that you face when you're putting up your application for the MBA programs, which is what you need to work on. Now, these are some business school profiles, and you can clearly see, these are very much relate to what we have discussed in the previous slides, which is around the GMAT average, around the work experience that is average, and the school, as well as the industry backgrounds which are represented in majority in these particular programs. So while you're evaluating your profile, which is something that we'll do in the next slide as well, we'll go through a quick assessment. Do make sure that you're taking a very pragmatic look at where you're coming from, where you want to go, and how the school fits and how you fit in the school class profile. So now let's do a quick self-assessment. Where do you fit in this particular landscape? Write down very quickly your industry, your years of experience, your GMAT or GRE score, your leadership impact, and your career goals. Just take around 30 seconds to write, and in that case, your answers will tell you which particular programs you fit with. If your answers align with the top MBA programs, you are in great shape. If not, please focus on strengthening your profile in the next few months. You still have time over the next few months. So we'll be taking up in the next webinar, we'll be taking up the profile building and how you should actually look at your own profile and what you can do to build a stronger profile in the next few months. So keep in touch, and in case you need an assessment on your particular case, feel free to get in touch with us or schedule